And welcome, flip clock fans. You're looking at a General Electric flip clock, not one that I often collect, but this one was cheap on eBay. It is the model 8116K. You can see it here in advertisements in 1972, 1973. Now the clock came out about the same time these Sankyo DigiGlow Model 412 and Model 551 came out, just to kind of place it in flip clock history. It was made in Japan mostly, but they used the GE motor cord. There's 5 screws to get out here to get to the clock, and I'll show you it kind of slides apart curiously, different. It's pretty straightforward, but you kind of slide it and hinge it out. So that was unusual. It comes apart easily. Better take that off. And we'll get a look here at the motor. That's a GE motor. It's got these slides here, sort of like wedges, that help position the clock better. For some reason, they didn't make it right the first time, I guess. And again, the problem is the light. The seller said that the light shorted out. It was working, then it quit working. I think he probably scared off some buyers by saying that, but it's what happened. It's no big deal. These lights go out often, and we're going to talk about how to replace that and how I did it in this case. You can see the electric's right on top there. We've got to desolder that, which is dangerous because you can kind of mess up this coil. Those wires are very thin that go to those leads, and you could burn them up if you get too aggressive. So we're going to go through that a little bit. Now the motor that it uses is a Telecron S-type rotor. We're not going to get into that too much. This one happens to be working pretty good. It's not as good as the Copals, in my opinion, but that's neither here nor there. We'll take a look at the alarm. It is just an alarm that uses the vibration from the coil, and this just hunk of metal. We'll try to get this to drop. And there you go. It's just real raucous. You got to be careful messing with this when it's energized like I'm doing here. We're checking the light. It's not working, of course. And it doesn't have much blackened there, so usually those electrodes will spit off material over the years. That can become completely blackened. But that's not the case here. That's not the problem. So we're going to desolder here, and like I said, you've got to watch your heat. It's good if you have a soldering iron that you can adjust the heat down a little bit. You want to melt this without tearing things up. There are tutorials on how to solder and desolder and stuff like that. I'm not going to go into that. You can learn how to do this stuff, but if you're inclined to do that. So some people do not have that desire to take things apart, so I'd be cautious. It's not something that's going to do itself, but you've got to start somewhere. Now I'll probably strip those wires and get everything back together a little more cleanly. So here we go. That's a resistor, and these neon glow bulbs have to have a resistor in line. It doesn't matter which leg it's on. This one, I don't know what all that blue stuff is, but that resistor's almost for sure fried. I did try to replace that resistor to see what would happen. I never did get the bulb to work again. But that doesn't matter because I was going to replace the whole thing anyway. So what I like to use is these bulbs, the C2As from MEMOTRONICS.com. They come with their own resistors. It's a 30 kilo ohm resistor and the bulbs. You just have to solder them in place. Kind of get the length of the whole situation comparable to what you had before. And it's gonna work. I'll use the wire leads, and over here I'll use a shrink tubing. Once you do that, as long as those two leads don't touch each other, you won't have any problem. I use this as an overcovering of the whole thing. That way I don't have to put shrink wrap on the other side. You could. There's no reason you couldn't. And this is fiberglass impregnated tube. Very heat resistant. Probably overkill. And we can see that the bulb lights up great. Again, using great caution not to get shocked. And there it is in place. You can see the tubing helped me kind of make sure that everything stayed away from the gears here. That's the whole point of that. And you can see the soldering job. It's passable. Took my time not to overheat. And here's the front piece, the front case. It's got real glass in it, which is nice. You always like that. There's tabs at the top. You just kind of push up on the case and you can pull this front out. It's a painted piece of plastic. And then the real glass piece. So everything can come apart and you can get it cleaned up really nice. Unless you have a cat like me, you're going to get cat hairs in there. It takes time. It's worth it. And there it is, the General Electric Model 8116K. A nice little flip clock. We were able to get it back in working order pretty good. Thanks for taking the time.